They say Odisha's countryside hides stories the rest of India has forgotten. Ancient temples swallowed by jungle. Rivers that change course overnight. And villages that simply vanish. I'd been collecting horror stories from this region for years, and locals keep whispering about one tale that chills them to the bone. The deity that disappeared and the river that took an entire village with it. What I'm about to share isn't folklore passed down through generations. This happened just 3 years ago in the family involved. They're still trying to make sense of what they saw. Meet Rajesh Patnaik, a software engineer from Bhubaneswar who'd spent 15 years in Bangalore. When his grandfather passed away in 2021, Rajesh returned home to fulfill a sacred family obligation, the annual Kartik Purnima ritual at the Mahanadi tributary where his ancestors had worshipped for 2 centuries. The ritual required him to travel to a specific ghat near the abandoned village of Kendrapada, place his father always handled, but now the responsibility fell to him. His wife Priya and their 8-year-old daughter Ananya would accompany him. A simple overnight trip. Light the dayas, offer prayers at dawn, return home. What could possibly go wrong? But before they left, Rajesh's elderly aunt grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. The old path is forbidden now, she hissed. Elderly aunt grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. The old path is forbidden now, she hissed. After the floods of 2019, nobody goes to that ghat anymore. The deity, she's angry. The villagers who stayed behind. She paused, her eyes watering. Just don't go after sunset. And whatever you do, don't acknowledge anything you see in the water. Rajesh smiled politely, attributing her warnings to superstition and age. He'd studied engineering, worked in tech. These old fears belonged to a different era. They left Bhubaneswar at 4 p.m., planning to reach the ghat by 7. But India's rural roads have a way of deceiving modern travelers. By 6:30, their GPS signal died completely. The paved road became dirt, then barely a trail. Priya noticed at first small clay lamps placed along the roadside, dozens of them unlit and covered in moss. Who puts diyas in the middle of nowhere? She whispered. Rajesh dismissed it. Probably some local tradition? But then Ananya pointed at the trees. Hanging from nearly every branch were small cloth bundles, tied with red thread, swaying despite the absence of wind. Offerings. Hundreds of them. The kind you leave to appease restless spirits. The sun was setting fast now, painting the sky a violent orange. Finally, they spotted the river through the trees, in what was left of Kendrapada village. Or rather, what the river had claimed. Submerged rooftops jutted from the water at twisted angles. A temple spire rose like a drowning hand. The entire village sat beneath the tributary surface, visible in the fading light like a sunken city. Rajesh's throat went dry. His aunt had mentioned floods, but this was something else. The water had never receded. Before we continue with what Rajesh discovered at that ghat, I want to take a moment to thank our channel members who make these deep dive investigations possible. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We bring you real documented paranormal cases from across India every week. Now, let's return to that cursed riverbank, because what happened next defies every rational explanation. Rajesh found the Gade stone platform now half submerged, slippery with algae. As twilight descended, he began the ritual, lighting the oil lamps, chanting the Sanskrit verses his father had taught him. That's when Priya noticed the statue. The family deity, a 6-foot stone idol of the local river goddess, should have been in the small shrine at the ghat's center. But the shrine stood empty, completely empty, just weathered stone and darkness. Where's the Murti? Completely empty. Just weathered stone and darkness. Where's the Murti? Priya's voice cracked. A deity statue that size doesn't just walk away. Someone would need machinery, multiple people to move it. Then Ananya screamed. She was pointing at the submerged village, at the temple spire jutting from the water. Something was moving down there. A shape, pale and massive, gliding between the drowned buildings. At first Rajesh thought it was a reflection, a trick of the dying light. But the water began to ripple, to churn, moving against the current. And then they saw her face. Enormous, carved from stone, rising from the depths, the missing deity. But her expression had changed. The serene smile Rajesh remembered from childhood photographs was gone, replaced by a grotesque, rage-filled grimace. The statue was moving, underwater, coming toward the ghat. Rajesh grabbed his daughter and ran, Priya right behind him. The sound that erupted from the river, I still hear it in the family's testimony, wasn't water. It was a voice, ancient and furious, speaking words in a dialect older than modern Odia. The ground shook. The clay lamps exploded in sequence, one after another, showering them with burning oil. They reached the car just as the stone deity's hand, 6 feet of carved granite, broke the surface, fingers grasping at the ghat where they'd stood moments before. Rajesh's hands shook so violently he couldn't start the car. That's when a truck appeared from nowhere. Horn blaring, headlights flooding the scene. a local transport vehicle, completely out of place on that abandoned road. The noise, the light it shattered, whatever was happening. Rajesh got the engine running and they fled, not stopping until they reached the highway 40 minutes later. All three of them vomited on the roadside. Ananya developed a fever that lasted 3 days. Priya's hair, I'm not exaggerating, showed 3 new gray streaks by morning. And Rajesh? He's never performed that family ritual again. Here's what the locals told him later. The 2019 floods didn't destroy Kendrapada naturally. The village had voted to dam a sacred stream feeding the tributary progress over tradition. The night before construction began, the river rose without rain, without warning, and swallowed every home. 17 families drowned, and the deity statue? Witnesses say it walked into the water on its own, sinking into the submerged temple, taking the village as her domain. The survivors who tried to retrieve it never came back up. Some paths are forbidden for a reason. Some traditions aren't superstition, they're warnings written in the blood of those who learn too late. If you've experienced something you can't explain, drop it in the comments below. And if this story sent chills down your spine, smash that like button and subscribe. Because next week, we're investigating the haunted railway tunnel of Shimla, where passengers hear screams from inside the mountain. Check the playlist link below for more documented horror from India's forgotten corners. Until then, remember, not all gods forgive, and not all rivers forget.